Hello. The title of this podcast is Do Challenges Strengthen Ego or Deepen Consciousness? For me, it actually is the latter these days, and that's because of the well being practice that I do on a daily basis. Prior to that, the slightest challenge would knock me off my path if I was even on the path in the first place. I was so achievement minded and goal oriented that I was really only focused on the outcome. Along the way, I missed out on a lot that I could have gained from challenges that were along the way. And I could have remained peaceful as I worked toward goals, as I encountered challenges, but I didn't. I often became defensive, or I took on this intensity that I was going to break through the challenges, but I didn't enjoy the challenges. And what I mean by enjoy, I didn't appreciate them for what they were as I was going through them. Instead, what I did was, if I had the presence of mind to even do this, I would reflect on them later to say, you know what, that challenge really made me stronger. But I could have been reaping the benefits of that kind of attitude along the entire way. Now, what happens is when I am challenged or something comes up that is not to my liking or is something that I wasn't expecting. Now, what happens is I'm able to, because of the practice, in that moment, appreciate it for what it is. And I find myself not saying I'll be glad when this is over, but instead, as long as this persists, I'm going to apply my practice so I can expand and deepen my consciousness along the way. So, for example, if I'm dealing with someone who is challenging to my ego, they're just being them. Their behavior is their behavior. It is, in almost all cases, not personal. They just do what they do. And sometimes the behavior is conscious, so it's expressed through kindness and compassion and consideration. Other times it's unconscious, and that the behavior can be indifferent or inconsiderate. Whatever the case may be, that as I'm going through it these days, or being around a person like that who may be expressing behavior that is unconscious, what I do is I say, I don't want them to change. I'm not asking them to change. I'm not wishing them to change. Instead, what I'm doing is I'm using this opportunity to expand my capacity to be okay with however that person shows up, whatever their behavior is. Now, if the behavior is really offensive, then if I look at it objectively, not just because they didn't give me credit for something, or they don't work the same way that I do, or their standards aren't what my standards are, all those things. No, that's definitely ego. But if they say something that's offensive, that is discriminatory toward gender identity, race, whatever the case may be, then I can have a conversation or talk to somebody who could have a conversation with, let's say, a colleague. But even that would be done in a way that I'd be thinking not about how it affects me or my ego, but thinking about it in a broader sense. Like, here's an opportunity for this person to learn something that could be a contribution to the workplace, instead of behavior that doesn't contribute to the workplace, to the well-being of colleagues that encounter them. So I'd be doing it as a way of without ego, of trying to create an opportunity for the behavior to be addressed so that it can be changed, and we can create a more inclusive and equitable workplace where everyone feels safe, welcome, and honored. That's a path that I would take. But again, while taking that path, I would not be closing my heart to the individual. I would just let whatever shows up, and my practice would be not being bothered by it, not closing my heart. And in doing so, I'm able to show up that way consistently, which makes a better me. And so that is how I use challenges now. The pandemic was another great opportunity to expand my consciousness. I could have really gotten stuck in ego about, all kinds of health protocols, whether I agreed with them or didn't agree with them. If I saw people who didn't feel the same way that I did, I could have made enemies of them and judged them. That's a way of definitely strengthening ego. But ego causes suffering and takes me out of the present moment. So while I'm complaining about others, I am I can't be loving to my family or to my loved ones along the way. When I bring home that kind of narrative to this safe place in my house, there's no room in that same moment to be connected with my family in a meaningful, loving way. I've thrown that away and chosen this ego path instead. So I become very, very conscious of those kinds of things that now when challenges show up, I am really focused and committed to it expanding my level of consciousness, my capacity to be kind, to be loving, to be peaceful. So I ask you, when challenges show up, I don't care what they are, because we want to make sure that I wanted to make sure that I made this unconditional, whether it is something that is a big challenge or whether it's something that is a minor inconvenience. I want to be, I want to have a blanket commitment around whatever shows up as a challenge. So hopefully that's helpful. So again, the question is, when challenges show up, does it strengthen your ego or deepen your consciousness? Strengthen the ego means judging, making others wrong, closing yourself and your heart off from them, resisting situations that are already here, no matter what you do or say, that are outside of your control. And expanding your consciousness, on the other hand, is accepting what is. And if there's an opportunity to improve it or make it better, then you do so while you're rooted in inner peace.